Welcome to another collective conversation. My name is Mike Brewer, and I'm your host today. And I'm very excited to have Mike Whaling, the president and founder of 30 Lines, back for, I think this is round 2. Is that right, Mike?
At least I think it is number 2. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, I want to welcome you back to the show. And as is tradition, I want to give you a little bit of time to plug 30 Lines and tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe what's going on in your world right now.
Absolutely. So 30 Lines is a marketing technology studio. We've got 2 teams. We've got our agency team that does everything digital marketing for multifamily, websites, email marketing, SEO, PPC, all of the things to capture leads and create demand. And then we've also have our software team, which is developing a platform called RentPress. And RentPress is really our all-encompassing apartment marketing platform, websites, local SEO. We're doing a lot with chatbots. We're doing a ton with email, and it's fun. We're having a lot of fun because we're just looking at all of the different things that we can do and all the different ways that we can help our customers. And we're learning every day. And it's been an honor serving this industry because we get to see people literally changing neighborhoods, and we get to play a little bit of a small part in that. And it's been a blast.
All right. Mike, I have the great privilege of now knowing you for, 15 years plus minus. I don't know. I don't remember when I met you, but it's been so much fun watching your participation in the industry. But as technology, especially as it relates to marketing, has evolved over time, in watching you and your team sort of evolve and adapt and continue to be relevant in the industry and have a very powerful voice and respected voice in the industry, that's been a lot of fun to watch from afar.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We're always watching 2 things. I'm watching where the customer is going and where my customer is going. So where is your customer going? And then where are you trying to go as a business? And where can we help our clients meet their consumers more effectively? And there's a lot that hasn't changed. Ultimately customers, basic needs are still the same. Where they go to search and how they behave and the technologies that we use to meet them and meet those needs is always evolving. And so it's just kind of fun to try and go. It's like Wayne Gretzky trying to skate to the puck. Well, I feel like we're trying to skate to 2 pucks at the same time and then get them to run into each other.
That is a great analogy. The Wayne Gretzky things was coming to mind for me, but then yeah. I think you're totally right about that. Well, speaking of where the consumer is going or how behavior is shifting or even how content creation is evolving, the topic I really want to dig into today is GPT-3, OpenAI. I'm completely thrilled by this technology, but I imagine there are upsides and downsides. But I think maybe to open, could you give our audience sort of a high level definition, or at least the story you're telling yourself or your perspective on GPT-3? Just tell them what it is, I guess, is the simple way to put that.
Yeah. So there's artificial intelligence, AI, and there are a bunch of different subsets of that. Machine learning is one of them. And then there's this category that has come out of that called generative AI. And generative AI is really just, it is a computer. It's a program that is trained where you feed it millions and millions and billions of pieces of information, and it trains itself on that data. And then it can generate new pieces of information based off of what it's learned. And if you look at OpenAI, which is probably the biggest one out there right now, they're doing this with language and they're doing it with images. So there's OpenAI, there's GPT-3, and there's the newer version, which is ChatGPT. And then they also have a separate part of that program that they built out called DALL-E. And DALL-E is a image generator. So you type in a text prompt and it will generate an original image based off of what you told it to create. There's some other ones out there that are doing images. There are other folks out there. Google has created their own language tool. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but this category that we're talking about today is called generative AI, where I can type something in and I can say, write me a script for a podcast, or write me a script for a video, or write me a blog post, or write me an email that I can send to a customer to answer a support question. And you can give it a couple of things in what they call a prompt. And based off of that, the program will generate exactly what you asked it to do.
It's pretty wild. If just as a visual for our listeners and even our viewers, it literally, let's say it's just an iteration of a Google search engine. If you go to the homepage of Google, there's literally a little box there. And to Mike's point, you put a prompt in there, and then whatever you've prompted the engine to do, it literally, and just as an example, Mike used there with a blog post, you put the prompt in, the blog post is there 15 seconds later.
Yep. Yep.
So
yeah, it's amazing.
It really is. So I guess sort of keying off of that, I'm going to be all over the board here, Mike, and audience, sure. Just because there's just so many directions that we can go with this, but maybe our conversation will take it down a path. But how do you see this? If you're a marketer and you're creating campaigns, or you create a campaign, how does GPT-3 fit into the campaign?
It makes you more efficient. I think the best place that I've found is it helps you not have to start from a blank page every time. Writer's block is a real thing. Creative block is a real thing. And if you can just say, hey, this is kind of where I want to start. I want to start with an outline of an idea. Give me some ideas around 5 ways to promote my property within the local neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's going to spit out five ideas. And they may be good ideas. They may be great ideas. They may be, maybe 2 of them are worth using, but you can at least, you have a starting point and you can edit from there. So I think that's probably where it's best used, is like, I can get something on paper really quickly, and then I can edit from there, or I can change things around rather than staring at a blank page.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Well, certainly from the efficiency perspective, it just blows me away how quickly this thing comes back. And if you use the blog post example, you spit the blog post, it spits the blog post out, and then you could literally say, write me a title for this. Yep. And then write me the keywords that I think should be included in it, right? Like, you can really refine this thing down, where, to your point there, if you were doing that manually, or how we've been doing that up to this point in time, that's a lot of work, potentially by a lot of people.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You kind of went into it there, but it's like, once I have the article and I get to what I want, now I can say, okay, I need 10 different variations of Google ad headlines, which can't be any more than 30 characters. So it's going to then spit that out for you. And you just keep iterating, and you just keep playing with it to get to what you want.
It really is mind-boggling.
Yep.
So do you, again, I'm going to be in 6 different directions here, but it brings to mind, like, current day chatbot. Do you think this, what's the difference between a ChatGPT-3 and a chatbot if you get it into the right context? And could you use could you use this as a replacement for a chatbot?
Not yet. Not yet. It's going to get there. Right. So ChatGPT is trained on, like I said, it's trained on a set of data that they fed into the system. So OpenAI was founded by Sam Altman, who's the same guy from Y Combinator, and it's funded by Microsoft. So I'm sure Microsoft is looking at how do we make Bing infinitely better based off of what we learn here. But it's trained off of a data set, and they actually stopped feeding it new data sometime like earlier in 2022. And they just said, all right, we're done training it. Now we can release it to the world. And, that's why it's kind of blown up over the past month or so, is that it's finally now open to the public. It is not actually connected to the internet, ChatGPT.
Right.
So you can't actually say, go to this link and look at the page and pull the information that I need. So ChatGPT doesn't have a lot of those things that your customer-facing chatbot needs. It doesn't have that information.
Understood.
I think that's kind of, like if they opened it up and said, hey, now you can connect it to the internet and connect it to your own library of information, and you can train it your own way with your own data, now all of a sudden it becomes really powerful. But honestly, when we look at chatbots for the industry, there's kind of two different approaches. There's the natural language, and then there's the guided conversation. And guided conversation typically is, it's a little bit easier, it's a little bit simpler, but you don't actually learn anything about what the customer is asking, about what they really want, because all they're doing is just hitting buttons and kind of following a set of prompts that the chatbot is presenting.
Sure.
Natural language is a little more open, a little more room for error, because customers use emojis and they use abbreviations, and they have, everybody's got their own unique way of asking for things. And we see all the time that when, people are asking questions every day that the chatbot has never been asked before. And so it's not necessarily, the technology is at a point now where we can understand what people are asking. We don't always have the answer. And I think that that's the thing that we really want to look at for the industry here is, what are people asking? And this is, a little bit separate from the ChatGPT stuff. But if I'm looking at a chatbot, if I'm looking at any of our guest cards, if I'm looking at how people are texting in for information, what are the things that people are asking, and how do we use that to continually build the library of answers, the library of knowledge, so that we can better answer questions for the next customer who has that interest in, are the units south facing, or whatever random thing that they're asking about the property. Once you have that, now you have a data set, and then you can feed that into AI tools, and then the AI tools can build on that and go, okay, here's how I formulate a customer service response with the correct answer for what the customer is looking for.
That makes sense. So in your estimation, that this technology would evolve to that at some point, but it's going to require a little more input data sets, more specific data sets, and probably more tailored.
I'll give you a real example of how we're using this.
Yeah,
we're taking, for our software, we have a whole site of support docs and documentation for how to use our software, how to set it up, how to integrate with Yardi and RealPage and everybody else that we integrate with. We are now using ChatGPT and OpenAI. We're feeding it our support docs, and we're saying, rewrite this in other formats. Rewrite this in the format of a friendly email that we can send to a customer who has a question about this. We get those emails. They require all I have to do is copy and paste my support doc and say, reformat it as an email. Like you said, within 2 minutes, we have an email that's done, and it says, dear customer, fill in the blank, fills out everything else, has all the information that our support doc does. And we can really easily, provide a link or provide any additional information that we want. And now we're able to save those as template emails in our support ticketing tool and in our CRM. So now my team has all of those templates built in, and it's all based off of, we took one format, a support doc, and we said, rewrite it in this other format. Or, take this blog post and rewrite it as a video script so that I can do a video demo of the thing, the topic that I want to share.
It brought to mind, it's not in that same vein, but it brought to mind the other day, I just thought, it'd be fun to write an SOP for, I saw an email exchange and somebody in my company, and we needed to write an SOP. And so I put it into ChatGPT, and it brought back, it gave me an SOP, and then I write a training curriculum for this SOP, and literally,
Yep.
5 minutes removed, I've got at least to your one of your lead points in a prior question of I've got a crappy first draft, right? That I can then take and edit.
Yep. Yeah. And you can even, and whether you want to edit it yourself or whether you want to continue to use the program to say, hey, edit this, or give it to me and rephrase this part. You can ask it those questions, or you can take it yourself. One thing that I've seen as a weakness is, it's not great yet at having a personality.
Mm-mm.
So, it's zero in terms of original thought, because everything that it's doing is off of all of the data points that it's been fed. But it doesn't really. It's still lacking when it comes to personality. I think that they'll be able to add some of that in. You can actually get the chat. You can get the text to be funny. You can add it understands how to be funny, but there's a long way to go to really make it as human as I would like it to be. That doesn't mean it's bad. If you're training curriculum, that kind of stuff, perfect example of a way to just take this content. I don't necessarily want to you burn all of my brain power on thinking like completely context switching. So give me a starting point, and then I can go from there.
Yeah. It's it's funny to your emotion point. So I've been playing around with it and say, putting in prompts like write an inspiring post or write a motivational post, and for all intents and purposes, it does a good job at delineating between those two things, or other words that I put in that I would consider feeling words. But then today I put in a question that was, what are you excited about in 2023? And it wrote back, I have no feelings. I can't really answer this. I can't get
Yeah,
excited, basically, is what it was saying. So
yeah,
it's interesting how you put the prompt in part dictates whether it can come back funny or inspirational or motivational.
no.
But I've
I think
seen.
that you just hit on such a huge element of this, which is prompt engineering
Mm,
and understanding. I definitely think that this makes people more efficient. It helps them move faster. It helps you get those ideas out on paper, but you kind of have to spend some time learning, how do I generate the prompt that gets me the result that I'm looking for? Because it's very easy to give it a prompt that gets you a very poor result. And you can always tell it, no, hey, try it again, regenerate something, put it this way. But it's understanding how to create a prompt to get what you want is going to become a really useful skill in the next couple of years.
it's great. It brings to mind this movie. I don't know if you've seen this. Along Comes the Spider. It's an old movie. It's Morgan Freeman, and I can't remember the leading actress in the movie, but in that movie, there is a scene where there's a teacher, and it's the early innings of the internet, and everybody has a computer on their desk, and this teacher is standing in front of the room and says, get to the Lindenberg in 6, search engine prompts or less, right? And this little girl is like, in 3 seconds, she's like got the lead page for this thing. And now we're in the early innings of engineering prompts to
Yep.
at a whole other level, right?
Yep.
It's so I'm stealing the prompt engineering thing. That's a great phrase.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one question I have, again, probably complete left turn here, but if everyone starts using, this is something that Dom Beverage brought up. I interviewed him recently on this same topic. If everyone starts using GPT-3 and the content becomes sort of all the same, how does
Uh-huh.
one go about differentiating themselves on a go forward if sort of everyone's on a level playing field?
I mean, I think you can't rely on this to do everything. There's a version of this conversation happening in the SEO industry, in the industry SEO space right now, because there's a lot of concern about, well, if I can just spit out all this content, then I can just slap it up on the website. And Google's actually kind of come out and said, we would prefer, they're actually trying to deduce, like, is this content that was originally written, or is it created by an AI platform? And I think the thing that we're going to see is, like, you still have to find where you are adding original thought and adding original value. So for your company, what are the ways that you add original value? How do you make sure that you're still communicating those, that you still articulate that you still have something that resonates with people? And then you can say, all right, of these values, of the things that we want to stand for, now I can supplement that with maybe some AI generated content. But if you're looking for original thought, this is not your thing. This is, take my original thought and give me some meat around it, so that I can then, put it in the format that I want it to be in, which, however, whatever channel method I'm delivering it.
I think this fits what you're saying. I just, in my head, the only way to get good at these things is to become a practitioner of them. And as of late in my practicing, I used it to write blog posts, but then I take that blog post and I think about whatever topic it might be. I think about a story. Because I work in multifamily, I try to think about a multifamily story, and I bake the multifamily story into the chat, whatever the chat brings back. I bake my story into that, and then I put that out there as a blog post. In my head, at least that's the story I'm telling myself today. That's how I'm differentiating between somebody who just takes what the GPT-3 spits out.
You add value, Mike, because you are so observant of the world around you and all of these other things, and then you go, here's how I want you to think about this. Here's how I want you to think about how that applies. What would happen? What would this look like if it was applied to multifamily? What would it look like if it was applied to leadership? You're not going to get that from an AI tool. Like, you have to have that you're making that personal connection, that original thought. And then from there, you can generate some content to support your idea and flesh it out and those kinds of things. But you are the one creating that original thought. The flip side of Dom's question is, what do you do today to stand out on an ILS?
Right.
If I'm scrolling through all the listings on your ILS of choice, what are you doing to stand out? Is it photography? Is it copywriting? Like, because I wrote a better description? Like, I think we have a long way to go in the industry to really look at, like, how do we take those things that we stand for, and how do we make sure that we are finding ways to articulate them in all of the places where customers might find us? Because there is and it's not just multifamily, but there is a vast sea of sameness out there.
Yeah.
Of Class A and Class A plus. We've all invested in the same or similar amenities. We've all invested in similar design. We all have the same, we're all trying to find the new unique way to say state of the art fitness center and a resort style pool and those kinds of things. Like, we have to find the ways to deliver something that resonates with the customer in a very unique way. That's never going to go away. And it's probably more important than ever, because all we're doing is creating more and more noise. You have to be able to deliver the signal through the noise.
That's a great phrase. I actually read a book called that a long time ago. What is interesting to me, keying off of, I think what you're implying there is personalization and customization on an individual level, right? So just let's dream for a second. So there's not only this chat, there's the image, but there also exists a moving image version, right, of this generative AI. In my head, somebody's going to put all of these workflows together. So let's imagine for a second that somebody's looking for a 1-bedroom apartment in Reynoldstown. And I have the ability to now use these tools to create a cinematic experience, right? Like literally how you would go to the movies and sit down in a theater and watch this like incredible, mind-blowing avatar experience of an apartment tour, right?
Yep.
and it becomes very immersive in that it elicits all the feelings, right? And it's so real that you're in the apartment, you're looking out the window, you're seeing all the activity that's going on down on the street. All of this, that's all possible today with a few prompts.
It's possible. I think our industry is not ready for the sheer volume of content you need to have as a base to be able to create that. I mean, you're talking about, and we have clients doing this today that are building this out, but you're talking about having a Matterport and a virtual walkthrough and a video tour of every single unit in your portfolio and using that as a starting point. Like I said, we have clients doing that today, building that out, but you have to have that as a starting point. The thing that I'm a little concerned about for our industry in particular is making sure that you are delivering what you're advertising.
Oh,
because, and this is a big concern of mine for things like the metaverse, right? Metaverse is so cool for so many brands because I can create whatever kind of world I want, and I can help people escape their reality in my metaverse, and they could escape their world for a couple of hours or however long they choose to engage with my virtual Chipotle, right? Or my virtual Levi's store. That can actually hurt the multifamily industry because I want my apartment, I want my living experience to be as advertised.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how we overcome that, right? We're not going to have shape-shifting walls and things, but like we have to figure out the way to go. Ultimately, the question that we want to answer, that every customer wants to have answered to make the decision, is what is it going to be like for me to live there?
Yeah.
And can I picture a better version of myself because I chose to live with you? Those are ultimately the two questions that we have to answer for every single person. And I don't know that virtual reality is the way to do that. I think that there are ways to make it more immersive and help people go, yeah, this is what it looks like, and here's the natural light that you'll feel, and this is what your view looks like from your bedroom window or your balcony. Like we can create all of that stuff, but as soon as you get away from the reality of once they move in and feel it, now that's false advertising.
Yeah, I see your point. When you're in the metaverse and you leave metaverse Chipotle, you're still in your same skin and your same place you were sitting when you put the goggles on. Whereas if you see this cinematic, overblown, oversold experience of this apartment building unit, etc., and you get there and you move in and it's not so cinematic,
right?
That's a big letdown.
Right. And so it's really more, how do you show people what it's like? How do you give them the best, and I'm not saying, you still want to play it up. You still want to make, present the best version of what you have to offer. But you kind of have to look at what are those other things that people are going to be interested in? What are the emotions that we can tap into? How do we help them create the story of here's what it's going to be like when you live here and all of the things that you have access to and the conveniences that we offer and the services we provide and the neighborhood and everything else. That's the stuff that people care about when they're looking for an apartment.
Isn't it interesting? We've brought it back to sort of the key components of an apartment experience offering, in that if you're story and your brand and your product and all of that stuff isn't what, isn't like top notch, broom clean, ready to present, great product, and you overdo it over here, you're just going to smash the experience and let people down and create a reputation for yourself. And it's even before all these tools existed, it was the same thing back then, right? You got to
Yep.
get the product right first.
Yep. That's right. That's
In
right. So, you can generate all the copy that you want, but if you don't deliver on the experience, if you don't deliver on the product, there's a disconnect.
Yeah, to be sure. I always have to ask this question as it relates to this, and again, I'm taking a right turn. Um, Ethical concerns or bias and things of that nature. I've heard this many times. I've read this many times in these big data sets and how they've accidentally generated content that was very off-putting or racist or otherwise. And how do you think about that, and how do you guard against that kind of thing? Because it's not quite there as it relates to that either.
Yeah, I mean, certainly with the new version of ChatGPT, they've put some guardrails around it. They're
Mm,
getting better. They're getting better all the time, but any AI model is going to be biased based off of whoever built it.
right.
Um, I think that we have to look at this just like any other technology. I think we have to look at it and go, does this does this meet the bar of what we are willing to put out and what we're willing to put our name on? And just like anything else with fair housing or accessible websites or inclusive language, we're using an AI tool now for our websites where we can scan any page and we get a score back on inclusive language and whether it's inclusive or not, and are there areas of the page that we need of the copy that we need to improve. That's a whole separate technology, but it's one way that we're applying AI to make us more efficient, because we can go to any page on any website that for any client that we're running, and I can get that report and go, cool, this is good, we're all right. Or, hey, we've got something flagged here, we need to take a closer look at it. um, we're seeing that, and that technology's um, Facebook got in all kinds of trouble for fair housing, for since 2015, 2016, and now they've put a bunch of guardrails in place as well. I think that with any technology like this, you can't just close your eyes and go and hit enter and hit publish and go, we're all set. You still have to have somebody who's looking at it and going, does this meet our bar for quality?
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, okay, so using this technology makes your team much more efficient as it relates to whatever project they might be working on, be it ad copy, be it blog posting, be it campaign creation, etc. How do you think about the use of that time savings? And what are you sort of refocusing? Or, I mean, there are many different directions, right? You can talk about, do you need that much labor, or do you refocus and reskill those people to do other things? I'm just curious to how you think about that, the use of time that you've now created in your organization.
Yeah. So, for us, it is, hey, can we use this to, how can we apply this to make our processes and our systems more efficient? How do we make sure that we have all the documentation that we need so that our team is educated and can keep up and can kind of self-serve on educating themselves on what we're doing and how we help our clients and all the integrations that we have to deal with, those kinds of things. So it's a lot of like, now we can finally get to the things that we've always wanted to be able to create, right? Because there's just a never-ending list there. But I also think that this opens up so much room, and this is how I think about any automation: is anytime you can automate something that is repeatable and tedious, I now give time back to that person to think about something higher level.
Yeah.
And maybe that's customer service. Maybe it's pick up the phone and talk to a client, or now you actually have time to really dig into those reports and start to look for patterns and look for trends. Now you have time to finally write out all of those strategic recommendations that you want to make sure that your client executes. Like, it just gives you time to think about those higher level things of, for us, what do we want to make sure that our clients are thinking about and focused on so that they see the value that we're delivering for them.
That makes sense to me. I remember you saying something to me at some point in time, and I think I was probably part and parcel complaining to you that, hey, I can't keep up with all of this stuff. I'm always reading. I'm always on Twitter. I'm always doing it, just trying to stay. And you looked me square in the eye and you said, that's my job. My job is to stay ahead of that stuff for you so that we can make application of it for you. You don't have to do that. And it sounds like a technology like this inside of an organization like yours frees up not only yourself, but many other people in your organization to help people like me be more efficient at my deliverable, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we fully see ourselves as an extension of our clients, and we're an extension of their team. And I want to make sure that, you know, the way that we look at the world is like, there is no such thing as a one-stop shop when it comes to marketing. There's just too much out there. But
Right.
I want us to be the first stop when you have a question, right? And the more that we can do to automate, streamline, and centralize as much as we can, now we actually have the bandwidth to take the call and to answer the questions and go, yeah, let's dig into that a little bit. Let's see where we can go with that. And to that end, let's go back to what we're talking about with ChatGPT. You can take whole documents, articles, drop it into ChatGPT and say, summarize this for me so that I can get the gist of it faster.
Right.
So now all of those kinds of things, I'm sure you have a stack of articles that you ideally would like to get through every day of all the stuff that you want to keep up on in the industry. If you wanted to, you could drop it into this program, have it summarize all of those things for you. And now, instead of, 10,000 words of articles, you have a couple of paragraphs to summarize what you really want to know.
You know what's interesting about that point? Yes, and yes, I've done that, and yes, just today, I dropped a link in to the bar to see what it would do, and it came back. I asked it to give me the talking points. I said, give me 5 talking points for this link, right? And it did, right? I didn't feed words into it or a prompt into it, except for the URL address to the website where I got the article from. So
Yep.
What it brings to mind for me is to make that even more efficient. If you use a platform like Zapier, or if then what, or whatever that is, IFFT,
Yep. Uh-huh.
you could create this sort of harvest all these articles for me. These are the publications, blogs, whatever I subscribe to. Run it through like a Zapier into a OpenAI or ChatGPT, and then, to your point, bring back the 5 talking points and then put them in email them to me. Again,
Yep.
using Zapier, or somehow there's some sort of connections and conduits you could put together there. And every morning I wake up with the most wonderful, wonderful email, digestible newsletter ever.
You can totally build your own personalized digest if you want, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. When I think about where this goes for our industry, I wrote an article a while back about role specialization.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really what we need to be thinking about here, is not so much, hey, I freed up all this time for this one person. It's more like, how do we have the people in the right seats focused on the right areas so that we can be delivering the level of service that we want, or working on the partnerships, or digging into the data and the analytics. That's really what this does. As we automate more and more of the kind of the the baseline elements of what needs to be done. Now we have more bandwidth to focus on these specialized roles that still need people and will for a long time.
Yeah, it's funny you brought. Do you know Elliot Burris, the guy who built? Yeah, you brought him to my mind. I was sitting in a boardroom with him. I think he was actually pitching Lisa to us, and he said he made a statement similar to what you just said, but he called it pointy. Right? We need to get people pointy so that they're whatever their superpower is, right? They're actually doing that superpower and thus feeling really fulfilled about the work they're doing because that is what they love to do. And it's the benefit that comes back to the company as a result of putting people in those pointy positions.
Yeah.
And this allows this, it sort of facilitates that. And it brings to mind another, Peter Diamandis calls it the AI co-pilot. So if we have this sort of AI co-pilot, just
and
there.
I think, and as leaders, you have to be able to recognize what are those specialty roles that we maybe we have them open if we could ever find a person for it, but we don't have it published as a job opening. But like, hey, we definitely want someone that can come over here and focus on marketing automation or deep data analysis, and then be looking across the organization for, do we have that talent internally? Who are the people that want it, are capable of it, get it, and that we can let them go be pointy over there? Or, do we have to go find somebody else? But like this completely changes the corporate ladder.
Oh, so much so. I don't, I've been, I'm going to call it preaching and promoting I feel like it's been for a couple of years now that people inside of organizations should be figuring out how to actually almost put themselves out of a job, but like take these technologies, right? Figure out how to automate every routine piece of your job, but make yourself valuable in the fact that you're the person doing that. You almost create your job, a new job, right? Because after you're done with yours, I want you to go do the accountants. I want you to go do the L&D. I want you to go do the human resource, right? Figure out how to get all of their stuff, their routine work. But I think, yeah, to your point, it's really going to disrupt the internal workings of a current sort of traditional hierarchy in a corporate world. In my mind, that's going to get disrupted before the frontline worker who's looking the customer in the eye every day.
I think we're already seeing it with some of the newer wave of kind of reimagined property management operators that are out there that have kind of sprung up for the last couple of years, that are they're building organizations where we've got leasing professionals doing their entire job from home. That's and right. being able to service multiple properties. We're just scratching the surface of where this goes for our industry and where, all the different ways that we can add value for every set of stakeholders.
So true. So true. It's, my mind is just blown up right now. Mike, I want to be absolutely respectful of your time, and I've already blown past the, you should not have a podcast longer than 20-minute mark, which I don't really subscribe to ever. But I do want to give you an opportunity to end cap our conversation here. Something for our audience, our listeners. We do podcasts and the vlog, but anything you would end cap with today, whether you're dreaming about the future or you want to promote your business one more time, but the floor is yours, rather.
Sure. Listen, if you want to talk more about this, I'm always up for it. You can find me at our website, 30lines.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active there. When it comes to the idea of automation and artificial intelligence, I think of it as an ingredient. It is an ingredient that we should be looking at in every aspect of our business, whether it's advertising or accounting or analysis or operations or maintenance. It is going to affect every part of the business. And if you are able to harness it and like any good chef, you have to understand how to use the ingredient. if you understand how to use the ingredient the right way, you're going to come up with a recipe for success. And that's really how I think about AI and automation in general. Is just it's just like email and phone and social media, they're just communication tools. There's no ROI of social media. There's no ROI of the phone. It's necessary as a communication channel for every part of business. That's really how I think about automation. And that's really what we're trying to do in our own business and what we're trying to apply for how we serve our clients and how they operate.
Well, Mike, I really appreciate that. I want to take just 1 second here to acknowledge everything that you do for individuals like myself, for businesses out there in the multifamily space. I know you extend beyond multifamily and the value you add to those organizations. Man, you're a gentleman and a scholar, and I would just really emphasize to our listeners and our viewers that if you want to talk to a guy that just has endless ideas and energy and creativity, Mike is the guy to call. Trust me. Anytime I'm in a pinch, he's the guy I think of. So take advantage of that.
Mike.
Yep, you're welcome. Take advantage of that. So for everyone viewing and listening today, we'll see you next time on Collective Conversations. Bye now.